Obviously, the other bureaucracy that we talk about a lot on this program is the Department of Veteran Affairs, who've done a horrendous job over years and years and years, so much so that there's a Veterans Royal Commission underway. We thought we'd catch up with former Special Forces Officer Heston Russell to find out where exactly that's going. There's been a number of claims over the past week. Good to catch up again. Heston, what stood out from you in the most recent evidence?
Hey, good morning, Steve. Well, particularly last week, you had the former Veterans Affairs Minister, Darren Chester, and Andrew Gee on there, and then you've also had the now extended Chief of Defence Force. And the shocking part for me was just to hear the lack of continuity, lack of handover, the fact that the Department of Veterans Affairs self-facilitates its own handover between ministers and essentially marks its own homework, provides its own briefs, and as you so correctly said beforehand, they are the root cause of so much of these issues. And no wonder it's one step forward, two steps backwards as we continue through this.
Were you surprised Angus Campbell retained his job?
I am absolutely livid and disgusted over that fact. He is single-handedly responsible for a spike in veteran suicide with his bungling of the Burton Report release, all the way through to a long list of issues that have resulted in the last few days, dozens of current serving veterans reaching out to me saying, well, there's a whole pile of discharges now coming with that guy staying in. The transition, the separation rate from the Department of Defence last year, I've been told, was somewhere around 12% at a time where our government wants to try and grow our force. If they wanted to increase morale with one stroke, it would be to replace that guy.
The reason given by the incoming government is they want some continuity with the AUKUS submarine deal. Well, that's just complete nonsense. I mean, at the level that Campbell's at, he would have had, not much to do with that on the ground at all.
That's why you have a secretary for the department. That's why you could have maintained the former Chief of Navy in that position. They want continuity, then they shouldn't have automatically changed out Brendan O'Connor, who was the Shadow Defence Minister, Shane Newman, who was the Shadow Veterans Affairs Minister, for the Labor caucus, and however they decide to pick ministers, because it's clearly not based on merit or continuity.
Part of the reporting in the Commission this week included the fact, and this must stagger non-military people listening to us, that the data on the number of Australian Navy personnel who experienced a suicide-related event didn't begin until 2017, despite the Army keeping track as early as 2007. In 2021, 100 Air Force personnel experienced a suicide-related event, the highest number across all three services. And you've got Angus Campbell telling the inquiry that the delay of reporting showed, quote, progressive development of Defence's awareness across the force and the development of recording and databases to be able to show that. What a load of gobbledygook that is.
Yeah, this is the mindset piece, Steve. Within the Department of Defence, within the Australian Defence Force, it's a very reactive model and has been historically when it comes to mental health and suicide. And it's only once it reaches that public awareness threshold that action's been taken. In the meantime, it's otherwise abdicated, delegated to the Department of Veterans Affairs. And it's that big gap in between those two departments that is actually the root cause of so many of these issues, and that lack of cohesion between those systems, particularly those reporting systems. I mean, we saw that just last year when all of a sudden the number of veteran suicides since 2001 jumped from 700 to over 1,300 once the administration picked up. So it's very difficult to be implementing statistics and fact-based changes to the system when you don't even have your data there to support it.
Commissioner Peggy Brown asked Campbell whether Defence had been slow to respond to suicide and suicidality, and Campbell answered that the ADF had, quote, addressed it in perhaps a disaggregated and federated way rather than a single integrated way. I've been in media for 50 years. I've been writing columns, doing radio and television. I don't understand what that means at all.
Well, Steve, this goes back to when you asked my thoughts and many of the veteran community's thoughts on that man being extended. That's an answer from a politician, not from someone who's meant to be the leader of your defence force. And that's the sad situation we are in. How does that answer support the progress of the Royal Commission or the acknowledgement of the issues, as opposed to providing a safe answer that will survive, further scrutiny down the track?
Yeah, it's dodging responsibility. And he was also asked about the Joint Transition Authority. Now, this is the crowd that are designed to help ex-military personnel integrate into civilian life.
Yep.
Now, that's a process associated with a higher suicide risk. He said JTA was not operating at full capability, but was progressing effectively and did not need any more resources.
Yeah, the Joint Transition Authority, I think it's nearly 2 years now since it was first fully resourced. We've all been involved in so many consultations with it. Hard to understand what more they need to do. We're just sort of waiting to see the actions of it because, Steve, within the ex-service organisation and veteran community, it's really been labelled as this great panacea to sort these transition issues. And unfortunately, I don't see it as such. I really think it needs to be merged with the defence recruitment for a holistic transition cycle, which is transitioning into defence, transitioning out of defence. And as of yet, again, it's a good box-ticking event. It came out of the Productivity Commission review back in the day, and we just need to see these actions. So, yeah.
Look, clearly defence has become a bloated bureaucracy headed up by very good politicians who managed to dodge bullets better than if they were on the battlefield.
That's a brilliant statement. Look, Steve, it's the bureaucracies. It is absolutely incredible. You and I have spoken for a number of years now, and I think over 2 years ago, the current Secretary for Veterans Affairs, Liz Cousins, stood up and said, if I'm still part of the problem in 12 months, I'll leave. And here we are here and now, and I'm watching the new Minister for Veterans Affairs go down to Canberra and have lovely morning teas with Liz and her team and watching all this lovely swooning that's occurring. But, we have a Royal Commission. We have veterans still not receiving their service payments, which happened before the election. We have an exodus rate from defence at 12%. This is the business side of these departments, and that comes down to bureaucrats and leadership, and that is where we need to get in there and start taking the axe to some of these multi-$100,000 paid bureaucrats and generals and hold them accountable to their tasks.
And, and we've still got on the ground people can't see a psychiatrist who are thinking of taking their own lives. As hard as that is to talk about, that's the fact.
That is, Stephen. Before the election, there was $27 million worth of grants that the Department of Veterans Affairs was meant to be paying to ex-service organisations. That's been told it's going to be on hold until after the election. And now 2 months later, some of those organisations are facing being closed down because that's the only source of funding, as opposed to going back to the Australians and asking them to donate more to charities. It's an absolute mess, and I'm actually speaking with the Minister for Veterans Affairs on Monday. So I'd love to let you know how that goes. Hopefully it's not just a box-ticking exercise, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done very, very quickly.
I'd love to talk to you after you've had that discussion. I'd love to actually be there, fly on the wall. It'll be very interesting. Go easy. Don't go too hard on him. Heston, absolutely. Great to catch up, mate. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good day.
Former Special Forces officer Heston Russell. He knows what it's like on the ground. He's had his own issues, and everybody knows just what a bloated bureaucracy the Department of Veterans Affairs and Defence is. As a Defence Minister, I think whenever anyone in either side of politics gets told you're going to be Defence Minister, they all go, oh my God, that's the toughest job in the country. About the only bloke who didn't back off was Peter Dutton. He's now out of there. The new Defence Minister's going to have a hell of a job.